identical twins stepped off the wagon. Though the cowboy was only expecting one mail-order bride, the sun hung low over the red plains of Mars, painting the horizon in deep orange and crimson. Dust swirled gently across the colony, lifting from the cracked Martian soil, and the distant hum of hover wagons echoed across the settlement. Jed Harper, a tall man with a weathered face and hands calloused from years of ranch work, stood at the edge of the landing bay. His wide-brimmed hat shaded his eyes, and his gaze followed the hovering wagons as they descended slowly from the sky. Jed had waited months for this day. A mail-order bride from Earth was supposed to arrive, a chance to bring warmth and companionship to his lonely ranch. He had carefully read her letters, imagined her laughter, and pictured the way she might walk into his life. He expected one woman, simple and kind, who would share the rugged life of a Martian cowboy. Yet, as the first wagon doors opened with a hiss of pressurized air, his expectations shattered. Two figures stepped out. Identical twins, side by side, wearing travel-worn dresses with delicate embroidery that seemed impossibly bright against the red dust. Their hair, dark and glossy, caught the dying sunlight, and their eyes sparkled with curiosity and courage. Jed blinked. Two? How could it be two? The twins, Lila and Mara, moved with effortless grace. They carried small leather bags, strapped tightly to their shoulders. Their expressions were confident, yet there was a flicker of nervousness, as if they understood the strangeness of this frontier life, but were ready to face it together. Jed cleared his throat, trying to mask his surprise. I was expecting one, he said, his voice rough from years of shouting over wind and machinery. Lila smiled, tilting her head. We're both here, she said softly but firmly, and we're ready to help. Mara nodded, stepping closer, her eyes scanning the settlement. We know your ranch could use some hands, and we're good at, well, a lot of things. Jed's mind raced. Colony law was clear. A ranch could officially sponsor only one bride, but there was something in their eyes, a mix of determination and innocence, that made him hesitate. He had seen many people come and go, but none like these twins. There was more to them than letters or contracts. Before he could speak, a soft beep echoed from one of the twins' bags. Jed glanced down to see a small device, sleek and humming, partially glowing with a gentle blue light. What's that? He asked, curiosity overtaking protocol. Mara's fingers tightened around the bag strap. It's something to help the colony. We brought it from Earth. It can make soil fertile, even here on Mars, she explained. Jed raised an eyebrow, skeptical but intrigued. Fertile soil on Mars? Lila nodded. Yes. If used right, it could change everything. But it's delicate. We need to be careful. Jed rubbed his beard. He had lived on Mars for nearly 10 years, battling dust storms, malfunctioning equipment, and the isolation of the frontier. He had never seen a device like this, not in any shipment or delivery. The twins' words stirred something in him. Hope, curiosity, and a little fear. All right, Jed said finally, his voice steady. For now, you can stay at my ranch. We'll figure the rest out later. The twins exchanged quick, grateful glances. Thank you, Mr. Sir. Harper, Lila said. Mara's eyes sparkled with excitement. We won't disappoint you. As they walked toward his hover ranch, the twins noticed the land around them. Jagged rock formations, patches of Martian moss, and the faint shimmer of wind-driven dust. Lila crouched down, examining the soil. This could work, she said, brushing her fingers through the dirt. With the device, this could really bloom. Jed chuckled, shaking his head. You two sure have a lot of confidence, Mara smiled. Confidence comes from knowing you can make a difference. Jed felt a strange warmth in his chest. These women weren't just mail-order brides. They were partners in survival, ready to face whatever the frontier threw at them. Back at the ranch, Jed showed them their rooms, small, simple spaces with basic furniture, but enough to make the twins feel at home. Lila placed her bag on the wooden table, and Mara unpacked carefully, revealing a few personal items, a photograph of Earth's green forests, a journal, and a small mechanical tool set. Jed noticed the care with which they handled everything. They were precise, thoughtful, and prepared. After settling in, the twins asked to see the ranch. Jed led them around, showing the hover horses, the water filtration system, and the small greenhouse he had tried, without success, to cultivate. Lila's eyes widened at the sight of the greenhouse. With the device, this could thrive, she said, tracing her fingers along the cracked soil. Mara adjusted a control panel, tapping into the energy readings. And maybe even expand beyond this? Jed frowned. Colony rules might not allow it, but I'll admit, I've been hoping for a miracle. The twins exchanged a glance. Then maybe we're that miracle, Lila whispered. That evening, as the twin moons of Mars rose above the horizon, Jed found himself sitting outside, watching them move through the ranch, laughing softly as they tested the soil and tinkered with the device. There's an energy in the air, a feeling that things were changing. The frontier had always been harsh and unforgiving, but now, with these two remarkable women, it felt alive with possibility. Jed thought about the letters he had read, the lonely nights in his cabin, the future he had imagined. He had expected simplicity, predictability, but these twins had brought chaos, hope, and a spark of excitement he hadn't felt in years. He realized that life on Mars, with all its dust storms and mechanical failures, might finally be full of surprises. As darkness settled over the colony, the twins came to sit beside him. Lila handed him a small, glowing orb from the device. It's delicate, she said, but with care it can help us grow food, create shelter, and maybe even make Mars a place people want to live. Jed turned it in his hands, feeling a subtle warmth. I don't know if the colony will allow it, but I do know this. If we try, we might just make something incredible. Mara leaned on his shoulder, smiling. And we'll do it together. Jed looked at the twins, their faces illuminated by the twin moons, and nodded. Together, he said. Outside, the Martian wind whispered through the rocks, carrying dust across the red plains. The frontier was still wild, dangerous, and uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Jed Harper felt hope. Two unexpected arrivals had stepped off a wagon, bringing with them courage, knowledge, and a mysterious device that could change everything. And for Jed, that was more than enough to face whatever challenges the red planet had in store. As they sat there under the cold alien sky, the twins and Jed knew one thing. This was only the beginning. Mars had tested him for years, but now, with Lila and Mara by his side, the lonely cowboy was ready for whatever adventure awaited. Strange creatures, rogue machines, or the mysteries of the red soil itself. Life on Mars was about to change, and the frontier had just gained a little more heart. The next morning, the red Martian sun climbed slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across Jed Harper's ranch. The twin moons had disappeared, leaving a pale, dusty light that painted the hover wagons in muted orange. Jed walked out to the greenhouse, where Lila and Mara were already at work, kneeling in the cracked soil, carefully adjusting their strange device. "Good morning, Mr. Malin." "Harper," Lila said, looking up with a bright smile. Mara waved her hand as dust motes danced around her fingers. Jed felt a spark of warmth he hadn't known in years. The twins were not just charming, they were smart, practical, and full of energy, the kind of energy that made even the hardest work feel easier. "Morning," Jed replied. "So, what exactly does that thing do?" He pointed at the device, still glowing softly. Mara tapped it with her fingertip. "It can change the soil here, make it fertile. Strong enough to grow crops even on Mars." She paused. "But it's more than that. It reacts to moisture, air, and even the energy from living things. You have to treat it carefully, or it stops working." Jed squatted beside her, examining the soil. "And you trust it?" Lila nodded. "We built it with care. It's why we came. We wanted to bring hope, not trouble." Her eyes sparkled with quiet determination. "Mars is harsh, Mr. Harper. We thought maybe we could make it better, if we worked together." Jed rubbed his beard. He admired their courage. Many settlers had come and gone, complaining about the dust storms, the thin air, or the lonely life. But these twins, they weren't afraid. They had a plan, and they had brought it with them. As the day passed, Jed showed them how he managed the ranch, the hovering water tanks, the robotic horses, and the solar panels that powered his homestead. Lila and Mara listened closely, asking questions and suggesting small improvements. They fixed loose circuits, adjusted the solar arrays, and even redesigned part of the water system using tools from their bags. Jed watched them work, impressed. These weren't just women seeking a home, they were innovators. By midday, the device had made a noticeable difference. A small patch of red Martian soil had turned dark and soft, as though it had been freshly tilled on Earth. Lila and Mara knelt side by side, planting seeds in neat rows. "It's working," Mara whispered, "just like we hoped." Jed smiled. "That is something else. I never thought I'd see green here." But the twins' work did not go unnoticed. From the edge of the settlement, A shimmering drone hovered silently, its sensors scanning the ranch. Its metal surface glinted in the sun, and a faint blue light pulsed rhythmically. Jed had seen drones before, mostly for deliveries or surveillance, but something about this one felt different, almost alive. Lila noticed it first. "Mara, look." She pointed to the edge of the canyon. "Someone's watching us," Mara squinted. "Not someone... something." She frowned. "That drone, it's different from the colony standard models. It's advanced. Too advanced for regular use." Jed's hand went to the handle of his tool belt. "You mean trouble?" Lila shook her head. "Maybe not trouble yet, but it's curious about the device. We need to be careful. Whoever owns that drone wants this soil or the machine itself." Jed felt a chill. He had faced dust storms, mechanical failures, and even wild Martian creatures, but he had never worried about a hovering machine spying on his ranch. "Then we watch it," he said. "No one takes what belongs to us." The twins nodded. Together, they devised a plan. They would continue using the device, but they would also create subtle defenses. Hidden markers in the soil, small signals to confuse the drone, and clever routes around the ranch. It was a delicate game, blending frontier smarts with futuristic technology. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of crimson, Jed and the twins sat outside the greenhouse reviewing the day's work. "I still don't understand everything about this device," Jed admitted, "but I do know this. You two brought something special here, something that could change life for everyone." Mara smiled softly. "It's why we came. Mars is hard, but it doesn't have to be lonely or barren. If we do it right, we can make a difference." Jed nodded, feeling a strange pride. "And you trust me to help?" "Of course," Lila replied. "We need a partner who can survive this land and protect what matters." Her gaze met his, steady and unwavering. Jed swallowed. He realized how much he had underestimated them and how much he already depended on their knowledge, courage, and companionship. That night, Jed slept uneasily. The drone continued to hover at the edge of the canyon, unseen but persistent. The red plains whispered with wind and the faint hum of machines. Jed dreamed of storms, both dust and mechanical, and the strange possibilities the twins had brought with them. The following morning, a challenge arrived without warning. A rival rancher, Clint Mercer, appeared at the settlement edge. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and known for taking what he wanted. His eyes narrowed as he watched Jed and the twins move around the fertile patch of soil. "So this is your little secret, Harper?" Clint called, stepping closer. "Thought you could hide something from me on Mars." Jed stepped forward, placing himself between the twins and the rancher. "We're not hiding anything. This is our land." "You stay out of it," Clint smirked. "Oh, I'll stay out for now. But don't think I won't be back. That device of yours, it's worth a lot more than you know." Mara clenched her fists. "He's serious, Jed. He won't stop until he gets it." Lila placed a reassuring hand on her sister's shoulder. "Then we prepare. We know the land, we know the device, and we know how to protect it." Jed felt the weight of responsibility settle on him. The twins had brought hope, yes, but they had also attracted attention and danger. The frontier was never easy, and Mars was no exception, but he would stand beside them. Whatever came, they would face it together. In the following days, the twins taught Jed how to camouflage the fertile patches, hide the device, and even create false signals for the drone. They worked tirelessly, blending simple tools with advanced technology. Jed learned quickly, adapting his cowboy skills to this new Martian world. He realized that survival wasn't just about strength. It was about cleverness, observation, and trust. One evening after a long day of work, the twins sat with Jed by the glow of a small lantern inside the greenhouse. "We have to be careful," Lila said. "The drone is curious, and there are others who might want the device for their own gain. But if we work together, we can keep it safe and use it for good." Jed nodded, watching the soft blue light of the device illuminate their faces. "I've faced storms, dust, and wild creatures," he said quietly. "But I've never faced anything like this, and I'm glad I'm not facing it alone." Mara smiled. "Then we face it together. We came here to help, not just survive. And we believe you can do the same." Outside, the Martian wind whispered through the canyon. The drone pulsed faintly, scanning the ranch, testing defenses it could not yet understand. But Jed, Lila, and Mara were ready. They had formed a bond of trust, skill, and courage, 3 lives intertwined on the harsh frontier of a red planet. As the twin moons rose again, casting pale silver light across the land, Jed realized that the twins were more than companions. They were teachers, protectors, and partners. The frontier had changed, and so had he. Mars was no longer just a place of dust and loneliness. It was alive with possibilities, thanks to two unexpected arrivals who carried secrets, hope, and a mysterious device that could alter life itself. And deep in the canyon, the drone hovered silently, its sensors glowing, waiting for the right moment. But for now, the ranch stood firm, defended by courage, cleverness, and an unbreakable bond. The adventure had only just begun. The Martian wind grew stronger as the days passed, carrying red dust across the plains like a warning. Jed Harper could feel it in his bones. Something was coming. The land around his ranch felt tense, as if Mars itself was holding its breath. Inside the greenhouse, Lila and Mara stood quietly beside the glowing device. The small green plants they had grown were now tall enough to sway gently, their leaves bright against the red world outside. It was proof that their work mattered. It was proof that hope could survive here. But hope always attracted attention. Jed stepped inside and removed his hat. "The drone's been closer today," he said. "It circled the ranch twice before sunrise." Mara frowned. "That means it's learning. Adapting." Lila crossed her arms. "And Clint Mercer hasn't shown his face in days. That worries me more." Jed nodded slowly. Clint Mercer never stayed quiet unless he was planning something. "We need to be ready," Jed said. "If they come for the device, I won't let them take it." Lila looked at him carefully. "Jed, if things go wrong, you don't owe us anything." Jed met her eyes. "That's where you're wrong. This ranch, this land, this future, it's not just mine anymore." The twins exchanged a look. They had hoped he would say that. That evening, the sky darkened faster than usual. Clouds of fine dust rolled in, blocking the stars. The twin moons rose slowly, pale and watchful. Jed stood outside, checking the robotic horses and securing the power units. He felt a strange mix of fear and determination. He had lived alone for years, answering only to the land. Now he had something to protect. Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed from Mara's wrist console. "It's happening," she said. Multiple signals. The drone, and something else. The air hummed. From behind the canyon ridge, the rogue drone appeared, brighter and faster than before. Its blue light pulsed rapidly as it scanned the ranch. At the same time, a hover vehicle emerged from the dust. Clint Mercer's. "He brought help," Jed muttered. Clint's voice crackled over a speaker. "Evening, Harper. You've had your fun. Now step aside." Jed stepped forward, standing firm in the open. "Turn around, Clint. There's nothing here for you." Clint laughed. "Don't insult me. I've seen the green soil. I've seen the drone react to it. That device can make a man powerful out here," Mara whispered. "He doesn't understand it." "If he uses it wrong, it could fail," Lila finished. "Or worse, stop working forever." Jed raised his voice. You take it and no one gets anything. Not you. Not the colony." Clint paused, then smiled. "That's a risk I'm willing to take." The drone moved closer, lowering itself toward the greenhouse. "Now," Lila said. Jed jumped onto one of the robotic horses, its engines humming to life. Mara tapped her console, activating the decoy signals they had prepared. False energy readings lit up across the canyon, confusing the drone. For a moment it hesitated. Then it followed the strongest signal, straight into the narrow canyon pass. Jed rode fast, dust flying behind him as the robotic horse leapt over rocks and ridges. The drone followed, its sensors locked on the false trail. Behind them, Clint shouted orders, trying to regain control. Inside the greenhouse, Lila and Mara worked quickly. They removed the device from its stand and sealed it inside a protective case. "We can't let it fall into their hands," Mara said. "And we can't let Jed face them alone," Lila replied. Outside, the chase intensified. The canyon walls closed in, forcing Jed to think fast. He remembered every turn, every slope. This land was his teacher. He led the drone toward a narrow ledge where magnetic interference was strongest. As the drone crossed it, sparks flickered across its surface. Its movements became unstable. Jed pulled the reins and veered sharply. The drone slammed into the canyon wall, hovering wildly before dropping into the dust below. Its blue light faded to a dull glow. Jed exhaled. That's one problem solved. But Clint was still coming. The hover vehicle skidded to a stop near the ranch as Jed returned. Clint jumped out, anger burning in his eyes. "You think you've won?" Clint snapped. I don't need the drone. Jed dismounted slowly. You don't need the device either. No one does if it's used the wrong way. Behind Jed, Lila and Mara stepped forward, standing beside him. Together. Clint looked at them, then laughed. You trust him? Two strangers who show up with miracles? Mara spoke calmly. We didn't come to control Mars. We came to heal it, Lila added. And we won't let you ruin that. For a long moment, no one moved. The wind howled between them. Then Clint sighed, shaking his head. You're all fools. He climbed back into his vehicle. But this isn't over. The hover vehicle disappeared into the dust. Silence returned. Jed turned to the twins. Are you all right? Lila smiled softly. Thanks to you. That night, they sat together under the twin moons. The device rested safely between them, glowing gently. You could still send us away, Mara said quietly. Colony law, one bride. One contract. Jed stared out at the red plains. Mars doesn't care about contracts. It cares about who stays. He looked at them. I don't see two problems. I see two chances. Lila felt her chest tighten. Jed, I don't know what the future looks like, he continued. But I know this. Whatever comes next, I want to face it with you both. The twins smiled, emotion shining in their eyes. The wind softened. The plants rustled gently in the greenhouse. The frontier had tested them, and they had chosen each other. Somewhere in the distance, the damaged drone flickered back to life, sending a weak signal into the sky. Ours was watching, and the final chapter was yet to be written. The morning after the confrontation felt different. Jed Harper stepped outside his cabin just as the Martian sun rose above the horizon. Its light spread slowly across the plains, touching the rocks, the ranch fences, and finally the greenhouse. For the first time since he had arrived on Mars years ago, the land did not feel empty. It felt alive. Inside the greenhouse, Lila and Mara were already awake. The plants stood tall now, their leaves strong and bright. The soil beneath them was dark and rich, nothing like the dry red dust beyond the walls. It held through the night, Mara said softly, checking the device's readings. Lila smiled. That means the balance is stable. Jed leaned against the doorway, watching them. Looks like Mars finally decided to cooperate. Lila laughed lightly. Mars doesn't cooperate. It listens, if you're patient. The events of the past days had changed everything. The rogue drone was gone. Clint Mercer had retreated. But the twins knew the truth. Word would spread. Others would come. And when they did, the choices they made now would shape the future of the colony. Later that day, Jed rode into the settlement. For the first time, he did not go alone. Lila and Mara walked beside him, their heads held high. Whispers followed them. People noticed the change in Jed. The way he stood taller, more certain. At the council hall, the colony leaders listened carefully as Jed spoke. We've found a way to grow food, he said simply. Not for profit, not for control, for survival. One of the elders frowned. And the device? Mara answered calmly. It cannot belong to one person. It only works when it's used with care and balance. Greed damages it. Silence filled the room. Lila added, We're not asking to break the rules. We're asking to grow beyond them. After a long pause, the council agreed to visit the ranch. That evening, the greenhouse doors opened wide. The settlers stepped inside, their eyes widening as they saw real green plants, fresh air, and soft soil. Some reached down, touching the ground as if afraid it might vanish. This could change everything, one woman whispered. Jed nodded. It already has. Over the next weeks, the ranch became a place of learning. The twins taught settlers how to care for the soil, how to respect the device, and how to work with the land instead of against it. Jed shared his knowledge of Mars, the storms, the seasons, the dangers. Together, they expanded slowly, carefully. No one rushed. That was the rule. One quiet evening, as the twin moons rose, Jed sat outside with Lila and Mara. The air was calm. The plants swayed gently behind them. You could have left, Jed said, after everything. Mara smiled. So could you. Lila looked at the horizon. But this place needed something more than rules. It needed people willing to stay. Jed nodded. I spent years surviving. I never thought about building. He turned to them. You changed that. Time passed. The colony grew greener, not faster. Better. Small gardens appeared. Children laughed where dust once ruled. The device was never copied, never sold. It stayed at the ranch, guarded not by weapons, but by trust. Even Clint Mercer kept his distance. One morning, Jed stood at the edge of the ranch, watching the sun rise. The red planet looked softer now, touched with hints of green. Footsteps approached. Lila and Mara joined him. The council made it official, Mara said. The ranch is now a shared land project. Jed smiled. Guess I'm not just a cowboy anymore. Lila teased. You still wear the hat, he laughed. As the sun climbed higher, Jed realized something important. The question that once troubled him, one bride or two, no longer mattered. This was never about contracts. It was about choice. About partnership, about standing together when the world was hard. That night, under the twin moons, the ranch lights glowed softly. The plants rested. The device pulsed gently, steady and calm. Mars was still wild, still dangerous, but it was no longer lonely. Jed Harper looked out over the land he once feared would break him and smiled. Because sometimes the future doesn't arrive the way you expect. Sometimes it steps off a wagon and changes everything.